Good morning. My name is Hillary, and it's Sunday Morning Live with John M. Good morning, John.
Good morning. I will now play for you a taste of things to come. Came home in the morning, and there she was. She said, I do not understand what is happening to us. She said, I didn't want to feel the love, but I'm feeling some. I said, consider it a taste of things to come. We were driving on a highway, she and I. You know we seem to feel it stronger when we don't even try. We were driving all night, but every mile was fun. I consider it a taste of things to come. But her love is like a rose. When you touch it, it stings. Ah, but it still ranks among the world's most beautiful things. And now that I've seen it, now that I know, I've tasted the future, I can't let it go. The most wonderful feeling I've ever known is holding her tight late at night, all alone. The last thing we feel when the day is done, I consider it a taste of things to come.
There's so many people tuning in this morning.
Oh, good.
John Zipper, Angelina,
Morning, John.
Marilyn and Gary, Ken Krupnick.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good
And
morning.
Jimmy Hunter, too.
Hey, Jimmy.
Oh yeah, I got a bunch
Welcome.
of notices on the phone. My phone started humming.
Oh, yeah.
During the middle
It'll
of
do that. Well, good morning and welcome to all of you. I want to especially thank John Zipper, who is probably exhausted and probably dragged his sleepy ass out of bed to watch this show. Because John had a great show last night with his band at the Coffee Gallery backstage. Pardon me. It was a full house and a really great band and a really great show. So congratulations on that, John. I was very glad that I was able to make that one, and a good time was had by all. So congrats on that, as I say. And John has his house concert series, Julie's Joint, which is going to be starting up again fairly soon. Actually, it's already started, I think. But they have another concert coming up fairly soon, and maybe John can post in the comments about. I don't remember the deets on that at the moment, but I'm happy to plug it for you. It's one of the two best house concert series I'm aware of in California. So
The deets.
kudos to you.
The deets.
So
That's the details.
So
New one on me.
So, good morning and welcome to Sunday Morning Live. I am John M., your host, and I have, as I often do, a special guest this morning, none other than Richard Robinson.
Hello, everyone.
And I'm gonna kind of give people the Reader's Digest on how we became acquainted, and then I'll let you kind of pick it up from there.
Sure. It's not like the first edition of this where we're outside and the wind is blowing.
Oh,
and the
that's
coffee's
right.
flying.
We this is actually a redo. Hillary and I have been doing these shows now for over a year and a half, and in all that time we've done them every single Sunday morning. And out of all of those shows, there was only one that was a disaster, and lucky for you, it was.
Yeah, right.
It was the show we tried to do with you at NAMM. At the NAMM convention, we'll talk about that in a second. But it was we found this beautiful outdoor location down in Anaheim, this nice little outdoor patio next to a Starbucks, and we thought this would be one of the few quiet places at NAMM, and it would be a nice little picturesque setting. And for a few hours that day, Anaheim turned into Chicago, the Windy City, and we ended up with coffee all over us, blown off the table, and both my guitars got blown off their stands, and the wind was just so loud that it became undoable and unwatchable. So that's the only show we've done out of this whole series that we did not post and archive. And so we have Rich back now to kind of take another shot at it.
It was a good rehearsal.
So yeah, it was. And you know what they say: if a rehearsal goes badly, then the
show
actual
goes great.
show. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
So
good.
So Rich is actually the very first recording engineer that I ever worked with in any recording studio. He was the head guy at Trodnossel Recording Studios in Wallingford, Connecticut. And I went there and did a demo, and then I went back and did my first album there. Rich used to actually teach RIA recording classes there.
That's right.
Learn multi-track recording, and they would always you would always have like a guinea pig band would come in so the students could record them.
Yeah.
So I took your course.
That's right. You did take my course.
And did marginally well.
You must have done well because you opened a studio in Nashville, and then you have a studio in California here in Los Angeles, and you are quite technically hip, so that must have done something.
Yeah, well, I certainly got a good start from it, but one of the things I picked up quickly was that I went to your course and there was some band had come in, and we got to put them through the trial of having us recording them. Yeah. And so I had my own band I was putting together at the time. So I called you up like a month later and said, "Hey, I've got this band. Could we come be your guinea pig band for and do a free band demo?" And
that's right.
And you said, "Yeah, why not?" So that was my first, one of my first demos. And then I came back and we did my record. And the interesting thing, so Rich and I kind of became friends back then. This is years ago. And,
yeah, that's right. We don't mention that.
and then we kind of drifted apart. I moved to Nashville, and then I moved out to California, and one thing led to another. Rich went his way. And then Hillary gets to be a part of this too. Hillary, who works for Music Connection magazine, sold me ads in the magazine for the studio that I had built out here in L.A., and Rich saw ads for that studio, and he went, "John M., oh my God!" And so he called me up or Facebook messaged me or something. I think he Facebook messaged me.
Yeah.
And he said, "Hey, it's Rich Robertson. I'm out here in L.A. now," and we got reconnected.
Yeah.
And Rich started doing some live sound for me for some live shows and live video shoots.
That's
and
right.
Stuff like
Coffee
that.
Gallery. Right?
Yep. And then my CD release. Well, before that, you actually made. That you helped me record that my most recent CD, M6.
Oh yeah, M6.
And then we did a live show for that, a CD release show.
Oh yeah.
And you did the live sound for that. So Rich has the dubious distinction of having done my very first record with me and my last one so far, my most recent one.
Yeah.
Plus
the remix.
Yes.
Okay, taste the things to come.
The first
remixed.
Record we actually did twice.
Yeah.
Because well, we mixed it twice. We didn't re-record anything, but
originally done on tape back in the day, and then that was transferred into Pro Tools, digital, and So we remixed all that, and as I recall, there was another song that you didn't use at the time, but we worked on it
Right.
and did put it.
Because,
so
you know,
bonus
anytime you
tracks.
re-release a record, you got to have at least one song that wasn't on the original
exactly,
record.
bonus tracks. So yeah, it was great to revisit all those from not so long ago, and remix it with modern production ideas.
Whistles and bells. Yeah.
Exactly.
So tell me, first I know you've done a fair amount of producing also. So, so why don't we start there? What for you is the difference between? I mean, many producers are also engineers, and vice versa. And a lot of people do both, as I assume you do. A lot of people engineer and produce, but they are two different jobs. So where is the line drawn for you? What's the difference?
The line. I wish I could define a line. The word producer is the probably vaguest term that we have. I would say in the music business, because a producer can be the musician who's running everything, who's arranging the songs, and basically I would say a producer is someone who makes the final decisions about what you hear. Not every decision, but the final decision. So the producer could be involved in the songwriting, could be. Maybe could also be involved in the arranging, or maybe not. Maybe the producer is mainly the engineer, but he provides a sounding board to the artist.
Tell me if you agree with this. This is my perspective on producing. Well, the engineer, if someone is just an engineer, they basically tweak knobs, and somebody says, I want my guitar to sound a little brighter, and the engineer says, oh, okay,
right.
But a producer, I agree with everything you just said, but I think a producer's, if I were to encapsulate a producer's job, it is to take whatever the artist has, even if he is the artist, take whatever the product is that the artist has, and package it in the recording in its best light. So minimize the weaknesses, and accentuate the strengths, and not really change it into something other than what it was to begin with.
Yeah.
Which that's, I think, in my personal opinion, I think a lot of producers make that mistake. They want to evolve it into something else, Yeah. But also, I think when a producer does his job best, they take the original thing that the artist comes to him with, and they keep it as that thing, but they present it so that it has the most impact and it sounds best and so forth. Does that ring true to you?
That rings true to me also. It also depends on the genre of music. In pop music, you look at credits and you see like produced by and it's a row of 6 people.
Yeah, right.
Well, I think what's going on there is they are developing the song as they go. They're developing the arrangements. And in a lot of cases, they just pile on parts, and eventually somebody has to sift through everything and say, look, this isn't working, this is working, let's use this, let's use that. So a producer is also a good arranger and editor. And then totally, again, it's very genre related. On a singer-songwriter project, it's probably just getting the best performance out of everyone. Or if it's a singer, it would be like, well, let's keep going. Let's do some more takes. Can you, get a little more feeling here or there or whatever it is? Sometimes you're a vocal coach.
Do you try different, if you're working, say, with a vocalist and they... for whatever reason, it's not quite, the magic isn't quite happening. Do you try things like, apart from the old cliche of once more with feeling, apart from that, do you ever try things like different acoustic environments, different microphones, different one ear versus both ear on the headphones, things like that?
Yeah, I think that's That's actually a mix of engineering and producing. See, a lot of engineers can get really good sounds. An engineer becomes an expert at sounds, basically, because you're familiar with, I mean, there's 200 microphones you could choose from to mic something. So as an engineer, you get familiar with, well, what does this mic do and what does this mic do? And you get familiar with the types of mics that there are, like dynamic, ribbon, condenser. What do each of these, how do each of these color the sound? And yes, acoustic environments, well, a lot of times with a singer, the singer's this far away from the mic, so what does the acoustic environment really mean? Doesn't mean a lot.
But it might make them, the aesthetics. I'll share with you briefly an experience I had with a different engineer in Nashville, a good friend of mine, Scott Baggett. And we were working on my CD, Still Here. And it was kind of a rock song, and I was trying to do lead vocals. We had the backing tracks, and I was trying to do lead vocals, and I was in a booth with headphones and a Neumann microphone, and we did take after take after take, and it just wasn't happening. I was going a little flat or sharp or something, and I wasn't quite hearing. And we went through all those things. We tried different microphones, we tried different headphones, we tried one ear, both ears.
I know where
we
you're
tried
going
into a different booth. We tried all these different things, and nothing was working. And finally, I'm condensing this. This went on over several hours. And finally, he set up a microphone in the control room.
Oh, yeah.
Right behind him, right, so over his shoulder almost.
Yeah.
And I said, and he said, let's do it without headphones. He said, I'll just play it back through the speakers, and you just sing to it. And I said, well, but aren't we going to get bleed from the speakers, isn't it? And he said, yeah, so what? You're singing to the song,
Exactly.
And so he said, as long as there's no other noise going on in the room, it won't matter, So we did that one take, and it was perfect. It was a take that's on the record, the first take. And he was like, he had his back to me, because he was at the board, and like, if you're me, and he was, and I finished the song, and he went, where did that come from? He was, he was blown away by it, and then we ended up tracking 2 or 3 more songs that way. And again, one take, maybe 1 or 2 punches, and so, and it was just the environment. It was just somehow the window opened, and we got a few songs out, and then the window started closing again, and we went out and had dinner. But
that's good. Yeah, the thing is, like what. Getting the artist engaged with the song, and because that's what happened, is that you were more into it. And yeah, sure, going into a room and singing into a mic, it works for some people. It works really well. Other people, it doesn't work really well, and it could depend on the day.
Sure.
That also makes me. I've done that several times with people. People ask, can we, just sing out in the studio? Okay, fine. Get a mic. Go on out there with the band, totally fine. And I also remember, what was it? There was a Madonna record where she did a lot of the vocals with an SM58 sitting on the couch in back of the control room. So sure, whatever works, whatever gets you connected, and whatever it takes to get your performance the best it can be, because that's what counts. Nobody cares if you have so many decibels of isolation between the lead vocal and the track.
Right.
Nobody cares about that. The listener doesn't care. It's like
how many milliseconds of delay or any of that stuff.
Oh God, none of that counts as long as the listener gets engaged.
Yeah. Any particular outstanding, did the studio ever burn down in the middle of a session, or is there any, any bizarre incidents that that people might find interesting?
I just thought of a bizarre incident, but maybe I'll just skip over that one and go to the funny one.
Okay.
So at Trodnossel, we used to have these. We used to do these live in-studio concerts with an audience.
Trodnossel was the studio in Connecticut.
Yes. Been there since 1962 or whatever, and is still there. And so yeah, we're doing this show with this guy this artist named Les Dudak. And he was kind of a rootsy, bluesy kind of guy, and he had a couple hit records out at the time. So we're getting set up, and they come in at 10 in the morning, and we're ready for a show at 7, and you've got an audience of 100 people waiting to come in. So his road crew, like 2 or 3 guys plus me and the sound guy, were all working on setting up, and it wasn't really going well. The road crew was all over me. Do this, do that. We want this, we want that, and blah 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 blah. And it just got so that I couldn't get anything done. And so Doc, the owner of the studio, came in and said, "Hey, come on, guys, let the guy work. So Les Dudek overhears this, comes into the control room, comes up to me and gives me a big hug, kisses me on the cheek, and says, 'Man, do anything you got to do. It's all good.'" So it was just so funny. He was just such a friendly guy, and he just wanted to get the music on and get it, get everything right. So anyway, that's my funny story.
Did the show go well ultimately?
Show went really well, yes.
Cool. I remember an incident from Trod Nossel with you and me. This is I was you gotta understand, Taste of Things to Come was my very first record, and so I was inexperienced, and I was kind of learning the art of recording through, not just the technical side as an engineer, but also as an artist. There's a lot to learn about recording. And I was kind of learning as I went, with Rich kind of walking me through a lot of it. And there came a point where we had to do a tambourine overdub, which sounds simple enough. And, Rich set up this big, beautiful Neumann, studio condenser microphone, very sensitive. And he had this thing out there on a stand, and I put my headphones on, and he's setting things up, and he needed to check levels. And I didn't know that when you're recording any kind of percussive instrument, especially something like a tambourine, or something that can be fairly loud, you don't need to. Sometimes when you're singing, you need to be right up on top of the microphone. But when you're doing a percussive thing, it's better to be, 2, 3, 4 feet back from it, and just let the mic get kind of the sound of the room and so on. I was right. Rich said, "Let me hear a little tambourine," and I was like 2 inches away, and bam, 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 and I looked through the window of the control room, and Rich has these headphones on, and he goes, "Jesus!" I almost blew his head inside out, and his eyes were this big, and I could tell he was like shaking his head, and it only took, to your credit, it only took you about 4 or 5 seconds to regain your composure, and you threw the headphones down, and you took a deep breath, and you pressed the button. It's not necessary to be quite that close to the microphone.
Yeah, always diplomacy.
Yeah,
always diplomacy.
But there's an important point to that, though, because it's part of making the artist feel comfortable.
Yeah,
and,
right.
If you had said, "You idiot," you almost made me go deaf, then we wouldn't have gotten anything else done that day.
Yeah.
Yes. So thank you for that.
Okay, well. And what's this one you're going to do now?
I'm going to do a song now. I'm going to do a cover song.
Oh, okay, cool.
That someone asked me to do several weeks ago, maybe a month ago. He said, "Would you play this song on your show?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll get to it. I've played it before." And they said, "Well, yeah, but it's been a while." And so I said, "Yeah, I'll get around to it." So I figure this is the morning I should get around to it.
There you go.
And it's in the key of A, same as the last song I played. bus to St. Cloud, Minnesota. I thought I saw you standing there, snow falling all around you like a silent prayer. Once on a street in New York City, with jazz and the wind in the air. Once on a cold LA freeway, going nowhere. And it's sad, but it's true. I thought it was really you, just a face in the crowd on a bus to St. Cloud. Church in New Orleans, I got down on my knees and I prayed, and I wept in the arms of Jesus for the choice you made. We were just getting to the good part, baby, sliding past the mystery. And ain't it just like you, to disagree? And it's sad, but it's true. You just slip right out of my view, like a face in the crowd on a bus to St. Cloud. And you chase me like a shadow, and you haunt me like a ghost. And I love you some, and I hate you some. Oh, but I miss you. Baby, I miss you the most. On a bus to St. Cloud, Minnesota, I thought I saw you standing there, snow falling all around you like a silent prayer.
Yeah.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, nice.
That was for Hillary. That's one of her favorite songs by one of her favorite artists, Jimmy LaFave. The late great Jimmy LaFave. Really, a really different songwriter. And that's, I have to say, I really love that song too. And I didn't, it's one of those songs that kind of grew on me. I wasn't that in love with it when I first heard it. But Hillary said, please learn this song and play it. And I thought, oh, okay. And but the more I played it and the more I got into it, it's really, there's an intensity to it that I really like. And I love the guitar work on it.
Yeah.
And I have fun playing that. So thanks for asking me to play it again. So back to my guest, Richard Robinson. So now you're still doing recording for people. I assume you're still, my impression is that you're not really aggressively seeking it out, but if somebody asks you to do live sound for them, you'll still do it.
Absolutely, yeah. Actually, right now I am in big band and dance band sound guy mode.
Wow.
having done sound for the Jive Aces at the famous Cicada Club in downtown LA the other day, and had a lot of fun doing that. And speaking of, before we were talking about changes in technology and all that, what used to take a rack of analog gear is now in one rack unit, and you walk around with an iPad. And I literally mixed this show on an iPad. Everything's right there in software. I mean, it's sort of like Pro Tools, but portable. Everything's on screen. You change screens. You can change all the settings. Everything you need is right there. And of course, the bonus is you walk around the room. You're not stuck in one place.
Can you do stuff quickly that way? For me, I'm very much an old school guy. And I'm a creature of habit. What I learn and get familiar with, I'm comfortable with, and so try to teach me something new, and I'm like, I don't know about that.
I understand.
But for me, having a full size board and having everything kind of laid out in front of me, I like the convenience of, if this needs to be a little louder, I just reach for this fader. If something needs a little more high end, I just reach for that knob and do it. Bang. As opposed to changing screens and scrolling menus and so forth. So my question is, in a live sound situation where you got to do stuff quickly, can you do it that way?
You can do it quickly enough. It is a question of training and being able to change screens fast enough. The song starts, the singer sings the first line, you realize, oh my God, I've got to get some of that 250 hertz out of there. So you change screens, ding, 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 and you're by the middle of the second line, you're there. And you're taking it down and you're adjusting the frequency, and then you go back to the main screen and maybe somebody else starts singing and you have to adjust their volume. It's just a question of learning the particular program. And yeah, a couple of times I was wishing, well, geez, I really wish I could just reach over and tweak this at the same time I'm doing this. But there's trade-offs with everything. Mm-hmm. So, and yeah, you really can only do one thing at a time. But it's so fast, it's actually very fast to go between screens.
I have a very important special announcement, and I probably should have done it earlier in the show, but I'm going to do it now. A brand new thing that concerns the Sunday Morning Live series. There is now a YouTube channel for Sunday Morning Live with John M. So all you need to do is you need to spell out the whole thing. If you just put in Sunday Morning Live, you're going to get a long list of, because there's a lot of songs that start with Sunday morning, and, But if you type in the search window Sunday Morning Live with John M, it'll be the very first thing that comes up at the top of the page. You can also Google. You can now Google Sunday Morning Live with John M, and it'll take you right straight to the YouTube channel. It'll be right there at the top. And these shows are archived with the name of the guest in the title, so you can just, there'll be all those thumbnails, and you can just, if you're looking for, say, the John Zipper show, you can just, Sunday Morning Live with John M, guest John Zipper, and bang, there it is. Do you have a favorite genre of music?
I love working on blues. I work with a guy named Nelson Adelard, who's a fabulous blues artist, and that's one of my favorite genres. Actually, that's where a lot of my big credits are. I've got 4 Grammy-nominated blues records.
Oh, man, we can't let that go by unmentioned.
That's right, I just mentioned it. I'm so glad. Yeah, those were great records to work on, real classic.
Who were they?
There was Eddie Kirkland, he's a very famous blues guy. Pinetop Perkins. Eddie Kirkland, okay. One of his many claims to fame is that he gave Jimi Hendrix his first professional gig as his bass player. Jimi Hendrix played bass with Eddie Kirkland. Hardly anybody knows that, but that's one of my little inside stories.
I'm gonna wrap this up, but
Okay.
I want to thank you for taking the time and we owed you a little extra time because of that train wreck we had down in
Yeah, that's
Anaheim.
funny.
But is there anything? My last question. Tell me something. Tell me something about Richard Robinson that people should know. It doesn't necessarily. It can be, but it doesn't necessarily have to be about music or studio technology or gear. It can be anything that I've left out. What should people know about you?
What should they know about me? Well, I try to be a Renaissance man, be involved in the arts, constantly learning about things. I'm a Scientologist, and I love that. Find out more. It's very interesting. It's very interesting and a lot of fun. So yeah, I like to be involved in the arts and technology, and I think it's one doesn't exclude the other. You can be a great artist, and you can be a great engineer, architect, technician, whatever you want.
There is one other thing I wanted to squeeze in here that I thought of before. My experience has been that a lot of especially in Nashville, for example, a lot of publishers that I meet they may be very, very good at what they do. They may be very successful, but a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them are frustrated songwriters.
Yeah.
And a lot of booking agents and managers are frustrated artists who wanted to be out there in the spotlight, and that never quite worked out for them, but they could get other people there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure really if there's an axiom like that for engineers or producers. Some producers probably fall into the artist category. But engineers, I mean, is the attraction the music, or is it the technology and you get to play with a lot of cool electronic toys, or what? I mean, you and the other engineers you might have known that you might have crossed paths with, good and bad, over the years. Is there any? Do you find that there's a kind of a mold that they're cut from?
That's a good question. I'm still involved because I love being involved in the arts, and I love being involved in the creation of a whole product. Okay, what's the difference between, let's say, somebody who plays guitar, which was my instrument, and somebody who gets involved in production? Well, in production, you are you've got the overall picture. You put together, you've got a bunch of musicians, you've got a songwriter, you've got a bunch of different ideas, and you can put all that together. It really crosses into production.
Mm-hmm.
Totally crosses into production. A lot of engineers move into production because of this. And, I like that.
Cool.
So yeah, doing other things in music besides being a musician, I'm totally comfortable not being involved in playing. Because I know what kind of work it takes to be professionally competent at something.
You know what your strengths are.
I know what my strengths are, but I also know what kind of devotion you have to put into it. And the reason why I don't start playing an instrument again is because I just know what kind of work it takes, the training and so forth. And yes, I want to do that, get back into it eventually. But right now, I'm okay with doing what I'm doing.
Well,
in fact, I love what I do.
I just wanted to bring up one more thing. You also restore and sell vintage gear, and I think you should talk about that. If
vintage gear, it's a disease. Yeah, I'm always trying to locate vintage gear, restore it.
And you sell it too, right?
Sell it, bring it up to modern standards. Yeah, that's
right. So maybe
right.
Isabella can post a link to that business.
Oh yeah, well okay, thank you for mentioning this because sure. On Facebook you can look up Rich Mix Pro Audio. All one word, Rich Mix Pro Audio. And you can see all my postings that involve vintage gear and all these things that I've run across that I write about. And my YouTube channel is Rich Mix Live, which has on it one of John M's songs, which he videoed
there is a video for it, which was filmed in the studio as we recorded the song. It wasn't, sometimes people reenact recordings in the
That's right,
studio.
that was live.
We didn't do this.
And you're in it, Rich.
You are in it.
That's right, I'm in it.
Yep, you're in it, sitting tweaking knobs and stuff, and setting up a mic for me.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes.
Thank you, Richard Robinson.
You're welcome.
This
You're
is
welcome.
My Mother and Me. She taught me how to tie my shoe, how to walk and how to run, how to talk and how to listen. 1, 2, 1. She taught me how to write my name, how to write a song. She taught me how to play the game, right from wrong. She taught me how to walk in the light and live by the golden rule, and sometimes how to stand and fight. My mama didn't raise no fool. And what you see is what you get, and if you like what you see, look a little closer. That's my mother in me. She taught me to be faithful, chapter and verse, and how not to be wasteful with this planet Earth. And she told me life is sacred, love is divine. Prejudice and hatred are diseases of the mind. She taught me how to walk in the light and live by the golden rule, and sometimes how to stand and fight. My mama didn't raise no fool. What you see is what you get, and if you like what you see, look a little closer. That's my mother and me. Now you can see it in the places I've been to. You can see it in the things I believe. You can see it in the things that I'm into. The mark of my mother in me. Now in your eyes I'm a stranger, and in her eyes I'm a star. And I can still remember when she bought my first guitar. And I go where my heart leads me now, with the wind at my heels. I am what my mother made me, and I like the way it feels. Hey, she taught me how to walk in the light and live by the golden rule, and sometimes how to stand and fight. My mama didn't raise no fool. And what you see is what you get, and if you like what you see, I'll look a little closer. That's my mother in me. What you see is what you get, and if you like what you see, yeah, look a little closer. That's my mother in me.
Yeah.
My Mother and Me. My thanks to Richard Robinson.
You're welcome.
And
You're welcome.
to all of you for joining us. We did run a little bit long again. Got to work on that. But thank you. I will be back next week. And I think my guest next week, I'll correct this if I'm wrong about it, but I think next week is when we have Well, is next week the 1st?
I think so.
You know, I don't think we have a guest next week yet, but we're working on it. Anyway, with or without a guest next week, we will be back here Sunday morning live, 10 a.m. West Coast time, Sunday morning on Facebook Live. Check out the YouTube channel, Sunday Morning Live with John M. All kinds of cool stuff there. Message me, email me, let me know what you think of the shows. Let me know what you'd like to see more of, less of. And just, comments in general. I welcome them all. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing and liking, those of you who do. Please join us again. Hillary, you haven't said much this morning. Are you,
No, but thanks everybody for coming. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
Ciao for now.